Greetings to all our viewers. Once again, thank you so much for coming back. Thank you for clicking, and thank you for those of you who are contributing, you're commenting, you are encouraging us. That really is working for the good for us. Particularly to those that are subscribing, please subscribe, comment, share, like all these videos. It gives us life to carry on recording. And again, like the previous session, having conversation with my son, Gwenyai Ranganai, our first son. We were, delving into certain aspects of our lives, but there's one particular aspect that we felt we could discuss further, and that is the relationship that we have now as an adult, and particularly now that you are a married man. But before we go into that discussion, I'll read a scripture again from Proverbs chapter 1. I'll read verse 8. My emphasis on the B part of that scripture, but I'll read the whole verse. It says, "Listen, my son, to your father's instruction, and do not forsake your mother's teaching." Proverbs chapter 1 verse 8. In Shona Zvirevo chapter 1 ndima 8 inoti, "Mwanakomana wangu, inzwa kurayira kwababa vako, usarasha kudzidzisa kwamai vako." Unzwisisa mwanangu? Usarasha mwanangu dzidziso dzandinokupai samai vako. So we just want to have a conversation on what, in your opinion, was our relationship like before you got married, in the process of you picking up a woman for marriage, throughout the marriage process, and now that you are a married man. How has that been? Because I've had young married women ask me questions and wanting you particularly to have a say in certain things regarding, when now the young man is married. Is that clear?
Yes, it's clear.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you once again, everybody. To delve directly into the question, I think what comes to my mind first is to emphasize that it's a relationship, and a relationship means that there are two parties interacting at all times. And I think sometimes, in my view, there is a bit of a disconnect once we're adults and marriage or people are now at different stages of their lives. And I couch it in that way, in that sense, because the relationship that I had when I was a child was that you were my parents, and you had to fulfill the responsibilities, the duties of being my parents, and I had to respond back as a child, knowing that I have this relationship. Was it fun? No, it wasn't fun.
It wasn't fun?
No, because I only knew you as mom and dad. Now I know you as Clarissa and Raphael. Like, to say those words for me, and I'm sure Chido would also testify, was like sacrilegious to know your, not just to know, but to actually say your parents' names, their actual names.
When did you find it easier now to say those names?
Yes, I remember, for the viewers who are watching us, Chido mentioned it in the first video that she did, that when we ourselves had reached adulthood, we were like, you know what, we don't want to only have memories of our parents as parents. We want to know them as Raphael, as Clarissa. Where did you come from? How are you where you are today in your life? And as she mentioned, we then had several, and it continues to be an open dialogue to get to know you, and you have responded. So I keep coming back that it's about that relationship. So when I finished school, the relationship changed because I was now going to university, and I had intentionally wanted to go far away from my parents. And God gave me the opportunity to go to the UK. But one thing that I remember you mentioning was that you were giving me the freedom. So you expressed it to go into the world and to trust that everything that I had been taught up until that stage I had learned, and that I would put it into practice for myself. And I guess...
Practically, how did that happen? How did we do it? Do you remember?
Yes, we sat down in the bedroom one evening when I was about to go to university, and I think that's the first time, because the parents that I grew up with, the mother that I grew up with, school was priority. So that was the first open conversation we had about me entertaining the possibility of a partner, a wife to be. And you told me in that discussion that you had no expectations in terms of what she would look like. If she was yellow, blue, with horns. Although you did say to me, as my mother, you said, Nigerian, I might struggle. I don't know why. You can tell me why. I didn't ask for
I don't remember.
why.
I think I said white. I don't think I said Nigerian. I would struggle with the wife that I have to be speaking in English all the time.
Yeah, and so I think you didn't really give me any, and so for the viewers who are interested to find out, she didn't give me a template to say when you're looking for a wife, and not to like insist that this is what she must be like. But I guess because of the background, I in my view, of the women that are around me, you innately, naturally will look for this similar qualities in the wife that you want, because and for me, I've been blessed to have my mother, but to have her siblings, her sisters, who have been great role models of what a woman is like, a working woman, a career woman, in the home, in church, in community, to have many examples of what a woman is.
I honestly was convinced that you and I were friends once upon a time.
Yes.
Is that a good assumption?
It's a good assumption.
Where did we lose each other that you even don't mention about it?
The friendship.
Yes.
I guess because of the stage that I now have a new friend.
Now you have a wife.
I have a friend.
But I think it's a very important thing that usually people say mothers and their sons.
Yes.
That once upon a time we were very good buddies.
Yes.
We enjoyed the same movies, we enjoyed the same sports channels. We were good, you know, we were good buddies. But I had to step aside and give way to the wife once she showed up on the scene. Anyway, before we get to the chapter of the wife, I just wanted to find out that what sort of skills or lessons, life lessons, do you draw from your growing up that helped you establish? Yes, you mentioned that you observed the women in your life and you could, come up. Is there anything else that you could add to say to a young man, who's wanting to look for a wife? What is it from your upbringing that you would say, okay, this also helped me when the time came for me to choose a wife?
From my upbringing, yes, obviously there was the personality thing was key, because it's something that I immediately wanted to find out from any lady that I was interested in, to know, because obviously each personality partnership has different dynamics.
Okay.
And then also love languages. You had learned from Gary Chapman about love languages, and so to know what the love language is and to have that conversation. Values as well. What do they value? and who are they? Where do they come from? Their family background, not just to know the person that's being presented before you, but to know what comes behind the person as well.
There are some mothers that want you to marry a particular girl, a specific one, and not that one.
Yes.
What's your take?
My take is that is not fair.
Okay.
To disappoint all the mothers in the world out there, it's not fair, because you are imposing ideals and things on your son, to say this would be good for you. Yes, I can understand the motivation, that you know your son, you know your child, and so you have all the best intentions for them, and if you could do anything about it, you would want to at least give them some guiding lines to say this is probably going to be helpful. But I think for me, I would rather encourage mothers to give principles, because principles of their nature, they are the same today, they will be the same tomorrow, they will be the same 10 years down from the line. And so looking at the examples that I've mentioned, the values are values. A person's personalities, that's who they are, that's their makeup. It's not going to change for anything. And also love languages, those are things that if you're looking for, you can latch onto the shape, the looks, the height, that is always going to be different. But I think to impose 100% is not fair, and it's also stifling.
So now that you have a wife, and I'm taking it that you were allowed to choose the wife, and that what you chose was accepted.
Yes.
What would you say to a mother of a young man who wants to be overly involved in the life of a son after their marriage? And what would be your role in protecting your wife from an overbearing mother, your mother who is overbearing? First and foremost, as a young man, do you even notice that, my mother is a bit too much? Is it something as a young man, do you think a young man can notice and be able to be honest to themselves that, you know what, my mother here is just being a bit too much?
I think it's something that a man could notice, that I could notice, but it's also, for me, in my view, and for us, what has worked is something, it's going to be bland, but it makes sense and it has been helpful, is that you need to communicate. And so in my instance, my wife needs to let me know, because for my entire life, the mother that God gave me, I'm used to her character, I'm used to her doing certain things. So to me, I won't necessarily find those things as issues. Maybe if you were to peel them off and look at it objectively, maybe I'd be like, okay, maybe there's an issue. But I think to the wife, the women in the marriage should be able to express that, there's this that I'm not handling. And so that means for the men, the sons, is to be willing to receive something that will be contrary, because it's not nice. This is your mother. And with the relationship, the friendship that you have, to be told that, like, what do you mean, my mama nonetsa? And then to be told the kunetsa kwacho, rather to allow for the woman, the wife, to say, this is how it's happening, and to allow space to process what does that mean and how you can navigate that. And I think also for me, something that I've learned is it's unfair to assume this person who did not exist in our family structure will just automatically understand. And so as a son, I have a responsibility automatically to be able to protect and to help and explain, like, no, this is why we're doing this, this is why this is happening, because she doesn't know. To all the sons out there, your wife is not a servant. She's, yes, intuitive, beautiful, amazing, intelligent, talented, but they're just things that she doesn't know because she was never exposed to.
So if I'm hearing you well, what I'm hearing is that there has to be a period of grace to allow for the integration of both, parents into your new life and yourselves into your parents' life now that you are a married man.
Yeah.
That's very important. And also the other thing that I picked up was that you have to protect your wife as you protect me in this relationship. How do you protect me? By describing me to your wife to the best of your ability so that she knows who I am. And how do you protect your wife? You do the same to me as well. You introduce her to me. You allow for us to learn each other protectively, though, so that none of us will feel like my space, is being, what's the English word? Apana nushusha mumwe.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that is very important. There's a young man, one of the cameramen is a married man, and for the first time, he's going to speak. You won't see him, you'll hear his voice. Algie, you have to speak. What is your take about mother-son involvement in marriage? You've been at it longer than Gwinyai, so as a big brother, please speak.
Yeah, so I think the key thing is the first thing is I think it's just to communicate.
Okay.
Honestly, I think if I'm a son to my mother, just to say, no, I'm now a married man, so please also give me space and room to also allow me to make mistakes.
Okay.
And grow. But I think the first thing is just to communicate to both parties so that they know where you're coming from. And I think it's not easy also to let go.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the Bible talks about clinging and living.
Yeah.
Yes.
So sometimes I think you have to live and let go.
Okay.
But also it doesn't mean you abandon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. That shows you are the big brother. Do not abandon me. You live,
Yes.
but you do not abandon.
Yeah.
Very important. I think sometimes it becomes difficult to strike the balance when you have left, and sometimes when the tendency is you abandon. So please remember me also.
Yes, I will. I take the note. But I also think from my own personal experience, I think that grace period is undefined. There is no time. It could happen in a couple of months. It might take a few years because we are human beings and life will unfold differently. For example, in our case, a lot of opportunities to get to know one another and be in different spaces was hampered because we got married during the COVID period. So 2020, 2021, basically the first 2 years of our marriage, there was no room just to be like, let's just go and have lunch, or we showed up. Is that okay? Is that to have those interactions which normally would happen, and to process that and to have those opportunities. And I've learned that you just have to allow for that room and that space.
So
and
after COVID, how has it happened now?
I think after COVID, what I would want to bring up is for the mothers which you told my wife, which we are grateful for, that your mother-in-law was good to you.
Yeah.
And so you have paid it forward, paid in kind, to say that I was treated well, and I want to do the same thing for when my son's wife comes into the family, and to be kind. We are human beings, and this is also a person who's not perfect, who's going to make mistakes, but to allow room for and space and grace for us to walk the journey together, because as you said, the son has made a choice. He's saying, this is the woman that I want to spend the rest of my life with, and to allow for that to happen.
My takeaway from all this is live, but do not abandon.
Yeah.
I think that's very important. And when you do not abandon, also try and involve us in your lives, or we involve you in our lives, so that we nurture the relationship both ways. And there will always be questions, dearly beloved. There will always be questions. There will always be comments. And for us to be able to take on this conversation, I would recommend for us to ask questions, comment in the comment section. Young women, if Kwinyai hasn't said enough or to your satisfaction, there's Algie in the room. He will also have to answer, and we will carry on. There's another young man who's folding his hands, so scared because he's not there yet, but we can rope him in so that we broaden the conversation and we ensure that the community that's following us they are learning from our own shortcomings. But thank you so much for your time. I know it's not as easy as it would have been, but thank you so much for your time. So to all our viewers, please continue to subscribe, comment, share, like, and see you in the next session. Who knows? Might be with my daughter-in-law next time. Bye. Thank you.